The Sect. 4:21 p.m. Leopold's guests would be arriving soon. The last employee of the catering company departed from the lavish condo, having delivered a magnificent feast fit for European royalty, though not even the kings of Europe possessed the power and wealth that Leopold's elusive and incredibly powerful sect shared. A butler would have been useful to help serve the food and pour drinks, but no outside ears could hear the matters to be discussed tonight. Leopold Wright lived on the 52nd floor of the ultra-luxurious 157 condominium, part of the infamous Billionaires Row cluster of towers in Manhattan. The $50 million residence offered 11,000 square feet featuring 10 bedrooms, 11 bathrooms, a fitness room, and a library. The condo was held under the ownership of Chemical Bank, an institution Leopold had founded some years ago. This meeting of his sect was an annual tradition. Each member held the right to call an emergency gathering at any time should urgent matters arise, but under times of stability, one annual meeting remained mandatory. The buzzer sounded at the door. Leopold rose to greet his guests. Upon opening it, he was met by Johann Reichardt of Bavaria and Gabriel Scheerest of Paris. "Welcome," Leopold gestured for his guests to enter. "How are you, my old friend?" Johann asked. "I don't know how you fancy living in the sky like this," Gabriel said, glancing toward the floor-to-ceiling windows. "Do you see yourself as a bird?" Leopold laughed. "You're not afraid of heights, are you, old boy?" Leopold took their jackets as his guests made themselves comfortable on the leather sofa. "How was the flight, gentlemen?" Leopold asked. "Very comfortable," Gabriel replied. "Johann's new jet is quite luxurious." "The Canadians really know how to build a jet," Johann told his colleagues with evident satisfaction. "I'm sure you're both hungry. As soon as Luciano arrives, we may begin," Leopold said. "Leave it to the Italians to always be fashionably late," Gabriel joked. "Let me fix us refreshments while we wait," Leopold offered, moving toward the bar. "I'm not waiting for Luciano to start business," Gabriel said, turning to Johann. "I'm going to need higher shipments of plasma in the next calendar year. We came dangerously short a few times this year. We're increasing compensation per session for the new calendar year," Johann explained. "It should encourage more people to sell their plasma." Leopold set 2 glasses of wine before his guests. "This truly is a life of excess, am I right, gentlemen?" Leopold said, settling into his chair. "Think of how we had to struggle in the past, the struggle just to stay nourished. We never knew where our next meal was going to come from. We got hungry, then desperate. We made stupid mistakes that made people hunt us." He paused, gazing out at the Manhattan skyline. "Look at us now. People don't even believe we exist anymore. Nothing but a Bram Stoker novel." "Speak for yourself, Leopold," Gabriel said, with a hint of bitterness. "You and Johann both live in countries where the sale of plasma is legal and, even better, private. I've spent a small fortune lobbying politicians for years with no success. Owning many plasma clinics did take a huge load off my shoulders, I will admit," Johann acknowledged. "But be patient, Gabriel. It will happen eventually, and until it does, you will always have all the plasma you need. Paris to Bavaria is less than a 9-hour drive." "It's good to see the level of cooperation we have today," Leopold mused. "To think of all the horrific feuds that transpired in the past, fighting for financial resources, for dominance, enforcement of laws. The mortals will never know what we had to go through to keep them alive," Johann said, his voice taking on a darker edge. "Disease and war alone should have killed the European continent 10 times over if it wasn't for us. We kept the groundwater clean. We culled entire diseased villages so the plague wouldn't spread. We destroyed kings and commanders alike to keep wars from spreading," Gabriel added, "and we were hunted like animals for it. Without us, they would still be starving on their pathetic farms." "We had to," Leopold interjected. "We needed them to feed us. We need them just as much as they need us." The door chimed once more. "Ah, that must be Luciano now," Leopold said, walking toward the entrance. "Watch him blame traffic," Gabriel smirked to Johann. Leopold opened the door. "Welcome, Luciano. Let me take your jacket. Come sit, join the others in conversation." I'm sorry I'm late, gentlemen, Luciano said, handing over his coat. I'll never get used to New York traffic. Gabriel and Johann exchanged knowing glances and began to laugh. Did I miss anything important? Luciano asked as he took his seat. I'll start serving dinner around the table, Leopold interrupted. We'll be eating in a minute. You didn't miss much, Johann explained. We were just reminiscing about our turbulent past. Speaking of the past, Luciano said, I finally got rid of my old birth certificate. I used that one for almost 14 years. Basic protocol says no more than 10, Luciano, Johann said with concern. Why do you take such silly risks? Honestly, I haven't used my ID much and completely forgot about it. It was when I leased my new villa that the paralegal mentioned how young I looked compared to my age on file. That's when I remembered it was past due. An eternal 28-year-old who should be 42, Gabriel said, shaking his head. This is a stupid risk. I get a new birth certificate every 5 years so as not to raise any suspicion. I will be more careful, Luciano conceded. Other than that, everything in Milan is running well. The sudden spike in gold prices has allowed us to use it as collateral to borrow more money from the central bank. We'll need the capital to build a new nuclear reactor to power our AI model. The massive grant the Italian government provided will bring great progress for my enterprises and, by extension, our sect. On paper, of course, I'm only mentioned as an outside consultant, a name that changes every time I get a new birth certificate. Dinner is ready, gentlemen, Leopold announced. Please wash your hands and come to the table. They moved to the dining room, where an elaborate spread awaited them. Good to hear, Luciano, Johann said, taking a bite of his steak. The German government has also invested heavily in AI, and one of my firms has the contract to implement it in a research and development capacity, helping German industry continue leading the world in innovation. All of our businesses are running smoothly, Leopold said, his voice taking on a more serious tone. The problem is not in this world, but outside of this world. We all know this. A brief silence fell over the table. You're still concerned with the Zetans? Gabriel asked. We should all be, Leopold explained. We are the only ones who meet them, and we still know very little about them. They make contact with us whenever they need our help, but never the other way around, Leopold continued, his concern evident. When they first made contact with us in 1108, we were practically cavemen, Gabriel reflected. Desperate for plasma, we would attack like animals, and we paid for it dearly. Not only were we at each other's throats, but the mortals were getting very skilled at finding us while we slumbered and cutting us down. They chose to make contact with us because they knew they could have a long-term relationship with us, Johann said. You could say they saved us. They taught us the importance of technological advancement. We then created the first magnetic compass. We could explore farther and bring back resources. With a little bit of coin, that's when we really started organizing, Luciano chimed in. We declared this sect and have steadily improved our situation ever since. Yes, but there is increased activity from them, Leopold pressed. They fly their ships in our skis. They could go completely incognito, but they choose to be seen. Why? He rose and moved to the refrigerator, retrieving a large vial of plasma. He began pouring his guests a glass. We can never know, Gabriel said, accepting his glass. For over 900 years, we've known that they are monitoring the planet. They've helped point us in the direction of progress and stability. When they do make contact, they ask for help from us but don't like to answer questions. We are at their mercy, Johann stated flatly. We always have been, Johann continued, and to be quite honest with you, I choose not to think about it. There's no point in worrying about something you have absolutely no control over. We can only manage our issues on the ground. Luciano raised his glass. A wonderful dinner. I would like to thank our good friend Leopold for a wonderful evening. He removed his contact lenses, revealing blood-red pupils beneath. The other guests followed suit, each removing their contacts to expose the same crimson eyes. May next year be as prosperous as the last, Luciano said, holding his glass of plasma aloft. Cheers, all the guests exclaimed in unison. The four immortals drank deeply, the dark liquid catching the light from the Manhattan skyline beyond the windows, a city of mortals below, utterly unaware of the ancient beings living among them. End